Hello everyone, Nigel Saunders here of KW Bonsai. Today, I've been looking forward to doing this for a long time. In the previous video, we kind of roughed our cedar avatar forest in. This planting is designed to look like the Avatar Grove near Port Renfrew in British Columbia, Canada. It's a grove of old growth western cedars. Really cool. Check out some images on the internet for the Avatar Grove and you'll see just how fantastic it is. So yeah, as I said, we roughed this forest in last time. It started out as a flat forest where we were growing cuttings. In the last video we created as big a hill as we could to look like the forest is on the slope of a large hill. And today we're going to go in and refine the forest and the planting. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start pruning down the trees, the foliage. You can see how bushy they're getting. Here's a shot of the clump on the right side. You can see, you can't see the trunks of the trees at all. It's just like an overgrown bush or hedge. So we want to prune those trees so we can see individual trunks. Make it look more like an old growth forest. These trees are still quite short. We want to grow them taller, all the trees. Not the same height as the main tree, but almost that height. So they'll be almost as tall, but skinnier. The ones that go further in the distance, we'll keep those smaller, so they'll look like the same size tree, but back further. Kind of create some forced perspective. So we're going to start pruning up these trees on this side first. So I've got to start somewhere. So I think what I want to do is pick an apex for each tree. These trees will grow up. Most cedars, as they grow, even if they have quite a twisty, gnarly base to them, eventually a leader shoots up and they grow pretty well straight upright. So we want to pick that leader, and I'm thinking it's this one here, and the rest are all pretty well branches. So I'm gonna reduce this vertical part on this branch so we don't have two leaders, and we're gonna shorten it back to here. There's a branch going inwards here I want to remove. I want to shorten this outer one here back to here. Cedars, they require two types of pruning. You want to go in and scissor prune them to prune the structure, and then you go back and pinch them for tighter foliage. You don't have to pinch it, you can cut it too, but pinching's easier and it leaves less browning. So we've got a fairly complex tree here, a lot of branches, a lot of multi-trunks, and a lot of decisions to make. I think I'm going to have to get rid of these branches down below. They're just too low. If this tree were just a specimen by itself, I would leave them, but I'm going to have to get rid of them. They're just too low. They're blocking out the view of everything behind. So I'm going to cut them off. That allows us to see in there a little more. Gives more of a trunk to the tree. They're growing well, these trees, but we want to give each tree its own light. We don't want branches from this first tree blocking off branches from the second tree. We've got to keep them pretty compact and upright. Kind of slowly getting there. So I think I'm going to do some pinching now. We've got a long shoot here. So I'm going to pinch it back more compact, like that. Same with this front one. We just grab it with your finger and pinch to a rounded profile. So you can see it just tidies it up. Makes it more compact. So a lot of pinching. You can see we've got this tree sort of cleaned up and compact. Still got a few more back here, but almost done. So the tree's done. We've left the top really vigorous to grow because eventually we want it, you know, a taller tree. And we'll decide what we're going to do about all these lower branches at another time. I'm keeping them for now. So on to the next tree. The next tree we'll be working on is this corner tree. And we'll be doing the same thing. I'm just looking at the structure and picking a leader. So this one is definitely not the leader. I think this one is right here. So this one's going to be pruned more as a, you know, a side branch. So I'm going to take the top off that. I'm going to reduce the leader on this one just a little, not the vertical one, but some of these side shoots, just to give more light down to these branches. I'm going to take it back. Just so they're not shading out these side branches, which also may get removed eventually. I'm going to take this branch off. It's a very weak branch. The foliage isn't green on it, and it's crossing in front of this tree, so I'm going to take it right off like that. Okay, let's pinch this tree. So we'll just get our branch and prune it back to a rounded profile like that. Same with this one. Pinch. There's a twin trunk growing on this tree. It comes up straight and curves around for our, you know, our main apex, and then we've got this trunk at the back which kind of duplicates the exact same trunk line, so it's going to be removed. We don't want that. It's kind of interesting, but it doesn't have a place on a, you know, a forest tree. So I'm just gonna cut it off roughly for now. Here we go. Take that out of there. I will try and clean that up a little bit more. There we go. On the right hand side at the back we have a tree that has some branches coming horizontally, but they're coming out quite far from the edge of the pot, too far. So we want to make them more compact if we can. So that'll rely on back budding, which we'll try and get. We'll leave them long for now. I'm going to prune them back, cut back the foliage in hopes of getting some back budding. Branch gets good light out here. Yeah, so we've left a little foliage on the tip. If this branch does die, we'll cut it off shorter and just leave it as a dead branch. But we'll try and maybe we'll get some back budding in here. You never know. There's a branch kind of growing forward here. We'll prune back, trim back some of these vigorous branches. So I'm starting this next tree. I wouldn't say the first ones I've done are finished, but just starting on this tree, getting it sorted out. I'm thinking I'm going to have to remove some of these lower branches here. If this tree were in the back, it would look better as a distance tree. I don't really want to rearrange all the trees at this time, so I'm going to try and do it with pruning. I do have about 5 little collected little cedars similar to this that I'm growing in pots that I may add to the forest, kind of to the back, to fill in areas behind. So yeah, and little cedars, you can grow these little cedars as cuttings too. If you take a vigorous top off, cut it, plant it in some moist soil and keep it well watered, it'll root and grow as a cutting. So that's another possibility in the future, is to, if I want some really small trees in the very back of the landscape, I can put some cuttings back there and grow them. But I think I definitely want less foliage on this, or less branching on this tree. It's got so much happening down low that's blocking your view from behind. So I'm going to start cutting some of these off. I'm working on this tree, cleaning up, getting rid of a lot of these lower branches. A few weeds back here we can pull out. So yeah, cleaning up some of the lower branches, getting it to look more like a tall tree. And you see more of the trunk line on it now. And again, we'll leave our apex nice and full to grow it taller and get all the vigor of the tree into the apex to grow it as a tall cedar. You can definitely see more of the terrain now. The branches aren't going right down to the ground. I'm just stepping back, looking at the forest from the distance, checking out what I've pruned so far. I've started pruning the right hand side trees too, to clean off the lower foliage on the trees and make them look more like an upright tree, which is working nicely. My trees on the right hand side are still quite bushy. I may have to reduce those somewhat still too. Yeah, lots more work to go, so I'll keep at it. I've been working on all the small trees for about an hour, cleaning them up, getting the lower branches removed, trimming them up to make them more tree-like, more compact, with an apex. They have a long way to go, but we're getting there. The next one we want to tackle is the main tree, the large tree. It also needs some pruning, so that's next on the list. So where do we start on the cedar? The first thing I do is I remove all the growth that's pointing in towards the trunk. So I want my growth fanning outwards. So there's some obvious, branches, like there's one here. We just remove it, growing in towards the trunk. There's other ones that are obvious, like great big long shoots that we want to either remove or prune back. When you go to style a tree like this, if your aim is to, make it look like a old western cedar, you should go in and look at pictures of western cedars before you come out to style it. So, all the concepts and that of the full-size tree are in your mind. So it makes it easier to decide what branches to keep, what foliage to keep, if you kind of have a picture in your mind of what you want the tree to look like in the end. So it'll take me a while to prune this up. I have another video that kind of shows the principles of how I prune this main tree, what I'm kind of looking for. So I'm not going to do, there won't be much video on pruning this main tree up. I'm just going to do it off camera, and you'll come back and see the result, and hopefully it'll look better. It doesn't look bad now, but it could just, look a little better. I've got the main tree pruned up now, making it more compact, getting our branch separation into pads and layers a little more distinct. Now that we have all the trees pruned up, and we can see now on the landscape, we can get in there better. There's some spots I missed with moss. I was going to have like a dry stream flowing down here, so we'll try and fix that up a bit, and we'll put some more detail work on the landscape. So we're going to start the landscape by placing some moss in some of these areas that I missed before. So we've got some moss that I collected. I actually took it off another tree, a bonsai tree.
We're just going to fit the patches in there. Got some vermiculite we'll have to pick out there. And then we'll give it a spray with water. And then just push it down once more just to make sure it's in good contact with the soil, that it's not just sitting on top and going to dry out. You can see that the moss we planted initially is starting to green up really nicely. Except for this one patch, I used a moss that was indoors on here for this patch, so it's getting used to the sunlight. So it'll take a while before it greens up, but it's starting now. Over on the left hand side we also have some patching to do. Now that we can see our terrain better with all the lower branches removed on the trees and the foliage tidied up. You can really have fun with mosses, using different kinds, leaving some long, pruning some short. You can really add to your terrain with your imagination. And then we'll give it a spray. And then we'll push it all down again and make sure it's all nicely contacting the soil with no air spaces. I think the next thing we want to add to the planting is some rocks or some interesting features, just to break it up so it's not just moss all the way. So I'm going to get a collection of stones and we'll try placing them around and try and find a nice arrangement. Another thing I noticed when I studied photographs of the Avatar Grove, there's a lot of, branches and logs lying parallel with the mountain slope that's kind of caught between two trees, just like these tweezers are. And they kind of get mossy and, soil runoff builds up around them, so it kind of gives a layered effect. And it'd be an interesting effect to try. So I'll get some of my dead bonsai trees and we'll try placing them in here and see if they look any good. I've gone into the backyard to look for my rock collection, which is getting kind of small. I could only find a few limestone rocks that I have left over, and I've got a few dead branches and stuff that I can maybe use in here. I was thinking, having a tree kind of parallel like that or something in the forest. Don't want it blocking the roots there. And I don't know about a rock. Maybe we should do the rocks first, if they're even suitable. Not sure. If I put this rock here, kind of takes away from the slope of the hill. It kind of makes it less noticeable. I might need a smaller rock and just have, little outcrops of the rock in the planting. Yeah. I think I'm going to have to find some more suitable rocks. And I think, our branches of that coming across are going to have to wait till we get the rocks in place. So I think we'll just have to leave the planting the way it is for now. There's another thing I want to do. The tree trunk is getting a lot of lichen on it. I think we better go in and clean the lichen up with a toothbrush and some water and just, you know, get it back so we can see our bark texture. I'm just going to spray the bark or the lichen with water, and then we'll go in with our toothbrush and just scrub it down. It won't get it all off, but it gets the thick parts off. If we took it all off, it would look too clean and unnatural. So we just want to get most of it off so it's not such a thick coating. And this is something you can do to your tree, you know, once or twice a year is probably all it needs to keep it under control. Some people don't have a problem with lichen growing on their trees. I do in my backyard. I get lichen growing on everything. I don't know if it's just in the air or if I just have good conditions for growing lichen. I don't know. But yeah, so we can see more of our trunk color and texture here. Looks more like a cedar than it is. There's the trunk all cleaned up. We'll just pan up, and so you can see kind of the red cedar color on the trunk now. It's not just all lichen. Up to the crown of the tree. When the trunk dries and it gets out in the sunshine, you'll see this color more. It's looking good. The bark is starting to crack. When I first got this tree, it had perfectly smooth bark on it, like some of these other younger ones here. And over the years, the bark's starting to crack. It gets a little better every year. So I'm hoping, you know, in the future it's going to look really good. More like a old cedar. That's going to be all today on the cedar forest. I'm going to look around for some stones and that, and we'll try them in various places. So in another video, we'll be doing some more landscaping, pruning our trees to look even better, and just continue to work on the project. But I'm happy with the way it's progressing. It's slowly becoming one of my favorite landscapes. So that's it for today. Nigel Saunders of KW Bonsai. Do something green today. Plant a tree. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.